is MC Fireside Chats, a weekly show featuring conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and outdoor hospitality experts who share their insights to help your business succeed. Hosted by Brian Searl, the founder and CEO of AccessParks, and powered by insights from Modern Campground, the most innovative news source in the industry.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with AccessParks. Super excited to be here for our fourth week episode, focusing on the RV industry. I keep saying like it's a hybrid between RV industry and outdoor recreation, but I feel like we need someone on here to talk about outdoor recreation. So primarily focused on the RV industry today, but super excited to have recurring guests here, Phil Ingrassia from the RVDA, as well as Shane Devenish from CRVA. We're missing a couple of regular guests, some super important things going on, and I think August is vacation time for most people. So looking forward to seeing what insights we have. And then we have a couple special guests here. Let me check my notes because I was late here running, right? But we have Jeremy Greene, Senior Director of Events and Marketing at RVIA, obviously another industry heavyweight that is certainly very, very critical to the success of the industry. And then Deryle Jensen, who's the president of RV Wheelator. He's going to discuss his services and business and things like that. So, gentlemen, where do we want to start today? Is there anything that's critical that came across our desk in the last month or so that we want to talk about as far as the RV industry goes, besides my horrible washed out background?
Well, I'd first like to correct your pronunciation of Wheelator. It's not Wheelator, it's Wheelator. RV Wheelator.
Like Wheelator. Okay. You can fire me. That's okay. I don't, I'll just go away. I can turn off my camera and we'll just let Phil and Shane host the entire show.
I don't think we want the host to go away.
We're glad you got your microphone.
We do want the host to go away. If you've ever watched a show, everyone wants me to go away. But yeah, go ahead. Deryle, you spoke up, so I pronounced your company name wrong, but tell us what is it Wheelator?
Wheelator. It's a play on the mispronunciation.
Okay, play on Wheelator. I got it. All right, Wheelator.
Wheelator.
Got it.
It happens that the word Realtor doesn't have an A in it. It's Realtor, but nobody pronounces Realtor. They all say Realtor. So I trademarked the word Wheelator. And for the past 10 years, we've successfully listed and sold recreational vehicles like real estate agents list and sell homes in the lower 48 states. Haven't got to Hawaii yet and haven't got to Alaska yet, but we will.
Tell me about what made you get into the business. I mean, it's obviously been a long time. You've been successful, steady, but what made you get into it in the first place?
Well, some family friends of ours came to us with asking me to help them sell their RV. They were super senior citizens and they were done. They couldn't travel anymore. And I selfishly didn't help them. And I have an automotive background. I know the industry. And they went to the dealer they had bought it from. And unfortunately, they got paid about $50,000 less than wholesale.
Ouch.
And I went to see him. And I said, gee whiz, you could have been fair. And the young man beat on his chest and told me that was his job. So I told him that I'd develop a business model that would kick his ass. And I have. I have the only retail business model in the RV industry.
I need to check with our moderator 1 second. Shane, are we allowed to say ass?
I think you're okay with that.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I apologize. I didn't mean to be too coarse. So anyway, we have a retail to retail business model. We can do things that no one else can do. Like we can guarantee a private seller up to 50% more cash than a dealer. We can guarantee that same seller a buyer. And just like real estate, we pay for all the advertising. So our service is no cost to the private seller, the FSBO. The buyer pays a small commission. It's included in the advertised price. And just tell you folks just how darn good my business is. One bad review in a decade, like in 10 years, one. So there I am in a nutshell, guys. Entrepreneur, working out of my home, help. And guess what my job is? Introducing nice people to other nice people. That's my job.
So and certainly, right, there's a larger picture for a debate. Nobody's saying that, well, you're saying that one person is better than the other, right? But nobody's saying that as a overall blanket statement. In the same way that I think there's a place for, just like when you're selling cars, right? There's a place for private people and private listings in certain segments.
Right.
Certainly a benefit to taking that to a dealership too. So I guess expand on your statement, right? Because it's a pretty bold statement, right?
Yes.
So why do you feel that you are and we certainly don't want to insult anybody, right? In your opinion, why do you feel like your services are different than a dealer?
Well, pricing. We have a fair pricing policy, and our pricing.
And your mic is a third party. Your mic is a little bit staticky. I don't know if you can fix that if it's on your.
No, I don't know how.
But okay, so we have pricing, right? And that's fair to a certain extent. I don't think that's certainly a slight on a dealership, much like if you were to take a car in the private market, and resell in a newspaper or something like that, there's a chance that you would get a little bit more for that. Is that something we can stipulate, Phil?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, private sales are just part of the vehicle business, right?
For sure, yeah.
Whether it's boats, cars, trucks, farm equipment, or motorhomes and travel trailers. Now, obviously, there's a place for everybody in the market. One of the things that dealers do, and of course I work for the dealers, so I advocate for them, is that not all used RVs are created equal. Some that have been sitting around for a while need a heck of a lot of work before they're saleable. Dealers invest quite a bit in reconditioning these units. The other thing is that not all RVs are suitable for resale by the dealer as well. Dealers, by and large, stay away from, units that are 15 or 20 years old. That's not to say that those units don't have another life ahead of them somewhere, but dealers may, for whatever reason, not want to take those in on trade. So, platforms like what Deryle's using are very valuable. And of course, that can be a gateway drug, for, that lower priced RV or that first RV that people are buying because they are price conscious, especially for younger buyers, perhaps, or people that don't have the means. They can get in the lifestyle and then move on up. So, I mean, if you have a scarcity mentality and think you only have to do it one way, that's probably not going to be all that successful. There's really it just depends on what the people need. Typically through a dealer, that unit will be checked out and things like that before sale. And that's kind of the value add, if you will, that dealers can provide, making sure that unit is road ready and all set to go for folks who may not be tinkerers or know how to do it or want to pay for an inspection.
Well, and that's why I tossed it back to you, right? Because obviously there is, as you said, a benefit to both sides of it. And I want to make sure we're not attacking one or the other because they both work hand in hand, right? It's the same thing as like a harvest host and a private campground owner and a national park. And right, they all exist. They all help funnel each business to each other. And like you said, I mean, again, dealerships is not my strong suit coming from the campground side as much as that is. But I think that there's very much value in explaining kind of that side of the story where if I was a dealer, and again, not knowing anything about a dealer, but I would want to take in units where I know that the customers coming through my door are going to be shopping for more so than maybe the older model who, again, like you said, certainly has life, but there is somebody out there who will buy that and pay a premium for it. And that's where Deryle comes in.
Or if people have really, kind of cream puffs and don't need the dealer and can sell through there. I mean, that's to each his own. Nobody's gonna, nobody on the dealer side is gonna say, private, demonize private sales. It goes on all the time. Not that naive, right?
No, I mean, and again, like we've just said, there's a place for both. Would you agree there's a place for both, Deryle?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. It just felt it was like it might have been getting a little too harsh there. So I just wanted to break that apart for a second and make sure.
Hey, Deryle, I have a question for you.
Yes.
One of the things that we've seen over the last, obviously 2.5 years is just this explosion in new units. Are you seeing some of these pandemic buyers use your platform because they're going to just leave the lifestyle?
Yes. There is abundance of COVID purchasers of RVs that are looking for a way to step out of it because it's more than they expect. They didn't even know that they market on the street with their HOA. All kinds of, gee, I got to keep it insured even when I'm not using it. And an abundance. Prices are going down, and the abundance of inventory is in a rush situation instead of being a patient situation. They're in a spell because payments ever are coming due, and they can't handle an extra one. So RV luxury item, first to go.
Yeah. Jeremy, one of the things that Go RVing did was some research on that pandemic buyer. And we knew we weren't going to be able to retain all those buyers. I mean, everybody understood that once, the both countries, US and Canada, opened up, it was going to be very, very difficult to retain everybody. But some of that research did show that we are holding on to a bunch of these folks, right?
Yeah, no, the research that we've done, the net promoter score that we're seeing coming back from new buyers is even higher than our traditional buyers. And so, yeah, I mean, the COVID pandemic definitely lifted the entire market up, and we knew we'd lose some people out on the back end. I think we were actually a little surprised at the positive sentiment that we got from the new buyers, the overwhelming positive sentiment that we got. So, we've seen the average, the median age decrease from, pre-pandemic, it was 53 to, last year when we surveyed new buyers in 2022, it was down to a median age of 32. We've seen the diversity of our buyer more closely reflect, the general American consumer. And so, we've done a lot with Go RVing and that national media campaign to really reach out to growth audiences and bring in and lift the entire market. And so, seeing some folks that, bought it just for COVID, there was certainly a small sample of those folks that maybe had looked to exit the market. But overall, it's been a net positive, boost for the industry.
Right. The kind of the installed base of RVs has really gone up through the pandemic as we pumped about 1.5 million units into the North American bloodstream in a very short period, a record period of time for the industry. So if we keep 60% and lose 40%, there's going to be a more used units available. That's for sure. But if it's the industry works to keep those people in and provide them the campground opportunities that they need, that's going to be important. So we're going to be on a higher installed base moving forward for repeat buyers. But at the same time, I think everybody understands there's going to be more used units in the market than would normally be there because of that COVID buyer. Don't you think, Shane?
Yeah, and like that 40% figure that you say, Phil, they're not just going to walk away from those units. People not wanting to, continue. They're going to sell it to somebody else. So the number of units are still going to be relatively the same. you're just going to have some maybe not being used for a while until they can find a new buyer. So
yeah, there's been just an overall shift, I think, in what folks find valuable to their time, and the way they share that with friends and family. And the outdoors is not going away. I mean, we saw that shift with the pandemic, and folks are going to stay in the outdoors, and RVing provides them a great opportunity to access all the things they enjoy about the outdoors just in an elevated way. So I think the industry is just really well positioned for the future. We all know we've got a challenging time right now, with some of the macroeconomic factors, facing us. But in general, I think we're positioned very strong as in the travel sector.
I'm curious here because we speculated on this show before from a dealer perspective, from a CRVA and CCRVC perspective with Shane, from other guests, and obviously me, maybe a little bit from the campground side, right? But Jeremy, we never asked you the question, and maybe you should just be a regular guest here, Jeremy, if you want. But because I think your perspective is important, once a month. But I think in your mind, as we talk about these, and sorry for the wind if it's in the background, but in your mind, as we talk about these COVID buyers exiting, some of them exiting the RV space, is there any research or data you can point to as to why overall they might be doing this? Is it a lack of campsites? Is it the economy? Is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, the research that we did that looked into, new buyers, and we ran this research in 2020, 21, and 22, and that's where we kind of saw that median age drop. We saw diversity, rise. What we saw is that buyers of RVs were buying for the same reason they always did. And COVID was like the fourth or fifth option, so it wasn't a significant number that bought for just COVID. So if we're seeing some folks exit, post COVID, that might have been that smaller percentage that entered just because they couldn't, go on a European vacation, or they couldn't, and so as other travel options open back up clearly, maybe they did it for a short time, and a portion of those people, that smaller percentage, portion of those people stayed with us, and a portion of those people maybe, look to other outdoor experiences, other travel experiences. So, I think the data that we have shows that the majority of those buyers were the same kind of buyers, just that COVID pushed them to purchase, maybe a little bit sooner than they would have, because it was a great opportunity to get in, and then spend the time, in the way that they could control, their environment during that time.
So lot traffic was during the pandemic was over 50%. And in some cases, 70% first-time buyers. And Go RVing kind of shifted into educational, because, and so did some of the manufacturers and dealers. I mean, the number of videos put up by the suppliers, manufacturers, dealers on how to use the units over the last, 2.5 years has just exploded. And so we were in an education mode versus a promotion mode. And now with the business softening, we're shifting gears again and going into promotion mode as we try to, move some of the inventory off dealer lots, and that's what we're all about over the next 6 to 8 months.
And just to jump in there, Phil, that shift to education for the industry, I think, was spot on. We're actually about to come out with some research into aftermarket parts and accessories for the industry. And we actually show the new buyers are saying they were more well prepared for RVing than our traditional buyers. So that shift to education, I think, was critical at the moment when the industry decided to make that move.
That's actually really interesting to me. Because is it a thing? I think I've known it because I've been in it for so long versus I'm new and I've researched it, and maybe more because when you're coming into the industry now, you have the internet and you have maybe AI, or you didn't have AI back then, but right, you have multiple different paths to learn quicker than you would with just going to a dealer.
Go ahead.
I don't want to be a naysayer, guys, but my situation, the rubber meeting.
You're still breaking up just a little bit, Deryle. I don't know if you can sit forward. Maybe it sounds like your mic is breaking up.
Yeah. I'm dealing with a larger percentage of sellers that are in an upside down situation situation than I ever did before. The COVID purchasers, because of haste or because of their lack of inventory or their choices, I'm finding that many of them are in a negative equity situation, far more than ever before. And that's what I'm doing.
What do you think? What's the percentage of your business in the last couple of years versus before COVID?
25 to 40.
40% up?
Yeah, 40% of them are upside down.
Oh, 40%.
Before it was like 25% of them were upside down. Now it's like 40% of them. Everyone, when I'm talking to them, I say, "Gee whiz, do you owe some money?"
Mm-hmm.
And it goes ding, ding, ding. It's difficult. And so the only way that they're going to get out of it is go back to a dealer to refinance another unit, and then again be negative, or find the amount that they're short and get rid of it.
Am I hearing this is mostly economic then? Like either you're underwater in your loan because of the economy, or maybe like Jeremy said, you purchased too early because of COVID, and you just weren't ready for it. But it seems like
in my business, yes, that's what I'm finding.
So it's not an unhappiness with the RVs, which we didn't think it was anyway, right? But it's not an unhappiness with camping or campsite availability.
No.
Some of it is. But is it a majority economic? Can we agree on that?
It's that family that bought their first travel trailer with their 3 kids that are under the age of 10 have had their food stuff go up quite a bit, and their transportation costs go up quite a bit. The RV is a luxury item. They got to get out of it.
Yeah, and dealers are dealing with this too on trades as well. What happens here, and for people who don't understand what negative equity is, here's what it is, okay? Let's just say you bought your RV at $25,000 new, you financed it over time, and then say you took an 8 to 10 year loan out on it. So 2 years later, you want to trade that thing in. You've got a $25,000 loan on it, but the RV is only worth $17,500. So you still owe more money than it is actually book value worth. That's negative equity. And the last time this happened was during the downturn of 2008, 2009, where interest rates and the market all kind of conspired to lower those values of those units beyond what people had paid for, had financed them at. So negative equity can rear its head in a private sale or at a trade-in at the dealer.
Yep.
And Daryl's right. I mean, one way is to basically go refinance your home. You go into the dealer, but you have to get another loan. So then you put the negative equity on top of the other part of the financing, and it's one payment, but, hopefully you don't do it. You don't get underwater again. But certainly it is an issue right now, like it was about, 15 years ago, 2008, 2009 time period. And,
but is the refinance option as available as it is today? I feel like it's not, given that interest rates are up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes even harder in a higher interest rate environment. But that's the way it is. If people make a conscious decision, are they going to put, how do you lower your interest rate, your monthly payment, the payment buyer? How do they do it? Well, there's 2 ways. You put more down, or you extend the period of the loan. So the further you extend the loan, the more apt you are to be underwater or have negative equity when it comes time to trade. And, some of the major banks are pretty on the record. They want a significant down payment, and they also they don't like these 15, 20-year loans, which really can be more apt to put the buyer in a negative equity situation. However, that's not to say, nobody's the cops. No, people can do what they want to do, right? So if you're buying a $250,000 motorhome and you want to take a 20-year loan out on it, almost like a mortgage, that's your right to do that if you can find the financing. But Daryl's right. I mean, it's definitely a growing issue right now, and higher interest rates just exacerbate the situation.
So what happens if you can't sell? Like, and I don't mean a single person, right? But in large numbers, if we get more of these people, and there's a glut of inventory on dealerships, and there's a glut of inventory in the private market, as there already is, but if this continues to exacerbate and scale and go uphill, at what point do we really run into a serious issue? If we have,
well, we did run into you just have to go back to 2008, 2009. That was a serious issue. And then you
feel like, and I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. Did you feel like it's going to be worse this time because of the amount of inventory that was injected right before it?
No, not at all. Somebody asked me that today. I had a business writer ask me that today. And what's the difference? We're not in a recession, yet. They keep saying one's coming, but there isn't a recession, and credit availability is still good. We don't see the situation where credit availability had dried up, where lenders were leaving the industry for whatever reason. So,
and
we'll get through.
There's some churn too that needs to happen, right, at retail. But retail's, it seems like it's outpacing wholesale. Would you say, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. Retail is down 25%. Wholesale's down almost 50% through the first half of the year in North America. So it's a little different in Canada, but that's roughly where it is. And so, it's definitely a crunch right now. It's definitely a crunch right now, but we do anticipate things are getting better. And I know RVIA's forecast is for a better 2024, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're 2023, we're projecting just under 300,000 units wholesale shipments, and then in 2024 that number rises to about 350,000. So we're projecting sometime after the first of the year really to kind of start to see a little bit of a turn there.
Yeah. So I mean, to stay out of negative equity situations, a good rule of thumb for consumers is to put as much down as you can and keep your loan payment is within a shorter period of time, and you're much less likely to get stuck in a negative equity. But sometimes first-time buyers don't understand that, and if you're keeping your unit for 8 years,
it doesn't matter.
Negative equity doesn't come into play. Mm-hmm. It's only those people who bought and then want to get rid of it right away or within a shorter period of time that can run into that. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time.
Yeah, and that applies to any asset that you drive around. A car, same thing as a car. RVs are no different. Depreciation is higher the first couple of years, and the shorter you keep the unit, I guess the more you're going to be a little bit, offside. But the longer you keep it, the less of an issue that is.
And just from an ignorance perspective on loans, you're talking about because you pay more finance back in the front than you do in the end, or?
No, you pay more. Well, I guess two things. The depreciation slows down. The depreciation is higher in the first couple of years than longer periods, and also you're going to pay back more principal in the in the latter part.
Shane's a former banker. Did I explain negative equity correctly?
That's why I ask him. I know how smart he is.
Oh. Hey, I'm a former banker. That tells you how smart I am. I'm in the association business now.
So let's toss it to Jeremy for a second, because Jeremy, I want to give you a chance to just talk about RVIA in general. I feel like we haven't had an RVIA person on here for a couple years for whatever reason. So I apologize for that. but like in general, what has RVIA been up to? Or we need to know.
Yeah, no, I mean, happy to be on. For those that don't know, we're the association that represents the majority of all the manufacturers and suppliers of RV products in North America. So we represent manufacturers and the suppliers of the product that go inside those RVs. We do a lot of things, from federal and state advocacy to, we're probably most well known for our self-regulation program, where we have standards that our members agree to adhere to, and then we address those standards through unannounced inspections every 6 weeks in manufacturer plants, and that's where you kind of see that seal on the side of new units that basically says that the manufacturer has agreed to meet those standards and been part of that inspection program. So, and that's typically what campgrounds look for, to make sure that it's meeting all the safety and life standards for entrance into parks and campgrounds. So big part of the things that we do are advocacy, standards, but Phil mentioned the Go RVing campaign, and that's a partnership that the RV Industry Association has with the RV Dealers Association, and it's all about lifting the market through a national media campaign, as well as PR efforts as well. So that's just kind of a taste of some of the main programs that we have. Another big one is we address the service side through the RV Technical Institute, also a partnership with the RV Dealers Association there, and that's recruiting and training service techs to make sure that folks can get their RV serviced in an appropriate time and back out camping. So just a few of the things that we do.
How do you feel that the RV industry, and I've asked, I think this to Phil, we've talked about this before, and the same thing with the RVTI, who we've had on here before, and I apologize again for the wind, I'm just outside, I can't literally move. But how do you feel like we can best address this? Is there a service issue, first of all? I feel like there is, and then how can we best address it with the industry to make sure?
What kind of issue? I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there.
Is there a service issue in the industry? I think there is, based on who we've talked to, but then, and obviously it's case by case, dealer by dealer, right? But then how do we best tackle that so that the consumer continues to have a high opinion of the RV industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, we like to look at it as a complete holistic approach, from the product to the experience you get in buying that product, to campgrounds availability and the infrastructure that folks are searching for. Then obviously service is a big component to that as well. What I can tell you is that the RV Technical Institute, they've been around now, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. We've brought over 14,000 techs, trained over 14,000 techs, since that time. Last year we recruited over 1,200 new techs into the industry. So it's an issue that's being addressed. Certainly, having a standard program of training is critical, and pushing, the service technicians through a career ladder, a career path, and the RV Technical Institute has developed that. We work with dealers, we work with suppliers, we work with manufacturers. We even work with some consumers on training. So we're really looking at it holistically to try and get more people into. Everybody's competing for techs right now, right? It's a real challenge, and we're no different there. But we've invested as an industry over $10 million into this challenge, and by bringing in 14,000 in the past 5 years and training them, we're definitely making a dent there.
Well, for sure. Yeah. Nobody was ever questioning your attempts. So I apologize if it came across that way. Like,
no.
Working really hard toward it. I just think it's kind of important to continue reminding the people, the campground owners who watch, the consumers who might be watching the show, right, that there's definitely progress being made. There's thousands of these new techs coming in. Like, we're getting better. We know, it's always to a certain extent going to be an issue, but it's a less of an issue every day that we move forward.
And one of the partnerships that we're definitely interested in, have been keying in on, is with campgrounds. Training campgrounds and folks there on the RV Technical Institute curriculum. Oftentimes if there's issues that folks might have, they might be in a campground and experiencing that issue. So having somebody that's equipped with the knowledge and is right there and able to get somebody, to have that good service experience at the campground, as part of that measure.
So let's pivot a second to because I think the studies that you do and the data that you put out is very, very critical to the industry overall, like the dealers, manufacturers, suppliers, like literally everybody, right? Campground owners too. And I apologize again if I'm breaking up. So I keep saying that like a broken record. But how do you feel like the data that you're providing is being used in a way to improve, well, really all aspects of the industry? Like, we know it's important, but what I'm asking is the nitty gritty of how does this study help this person? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I can take a piece of that, because we do a lot of different studies and data. One of the more recent ones that we did was the demographic report on the RV consumer, and just from working with the Go RVing program, we looked that broke down the RV consumer into 7 different types. And we use that data to better develop the right authentic relationships with those type of customers, so that we're promoting the right products, the right lifestyle choices to the right audiences. So it's helpful for us as a program, to lift the industry and deliver new customers. But it's also extremely helpful for dealers on the local level to target the right people in their backyard. It's up for manufacturers and the brands to make sure that they're connecting to the right audiences in an authentic way. So that's just one piece. On the campground side, we did a large campground study where we looked at both the public and private side. And I know that there's this saying that there's not enough campgrounds out there. And we found there's actually a lot of campgrounds out there. There's thousands and thousands of campgrounds. It's very fragmented and difficult to find campgrounds for sure for the user, and then on top of that, the infrastructure is a big challenge for, especially on the public side. So we're using that data on our advocacy efforts to go into, state and federal, legislatures and conversations and try and advocate for increased infrastructure so that we're able to improve the amenities that campers are looking for. So the data that we have is used in a lot of different ways, either by us as an association advocating on behalf of the industry, or by different brands.
Well, I think it's important to continue highlighting that, right? Because again, what we see, or at least what I see on a regular basis, is shipments are up, shipments are down, shipments are up, shipments are down. And that's really the headline number that we see more than anything else, but there's so much more to it. And that's why I asked you the question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is kind of our bread and butter. That's, what folks look to us for on that monthly basis. But, I would say, at least quarterly, we've got some piece of information. We've actually got something coming out here within the next week around travel intentions. And we're showing, heavily that, folks are looking to travel over, the Labor Day holiday. 49% of all leisure travelers, which represents 95 million folks, plan to travel over Labor Day. But then when we break that down into, RVers, and 17% of them claim that they intend to have some type of RV experience over the course of those travels. And that breaks down to 16.1 million U.S. residents, which is up from 12 million over the Memorial Day holiday. So, we use data like that, and that's just a short snippet, but we use data like that to, with the upcoming holiday, to go out to media and share the story that is RVing, and that folks are gravitating to it, even in these, tough economic, challenging times that we're in right now.
Is there a way, like if I'm in the shoes of a campground owner, right, and I'm running my business every day and I barely have time to look at my own website, Google Analytics and things like that, is there a way that I can easily digest some of this information when I'm having conversations, maybe majorly about my campground, right, to my local media, to my journalists, to people like that, to kind of spread this word or to analyze it's very hard to read that long report, right? If you're a consumer or if you're a campground owner and you have 40,000 things that you're doing. So is there an easy way to digest these bullet points for them or disseminate them easier?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes we try and come up with different ways of pushing out, the data. Either we'll have a full 200-page study, that folks can dig in and read, and sometimes we just try and hit the highlights as well. So, You know, one of the things we try and do as an industry, and, you know, got our partners in Shane and Phil, you know, here as well, we try and work together, you know, from the manufacturer, supplier, campground, dealer side, to make sure that we're all kind of speaking the same tune, and sharing resources, you know, and those high points, you know, and so oftentimes it comes down to just, you know, a few talking points maybe that we can share out of the larger study.
All right, what else we got, gentlemen?
Well, you know, one of the things, and I'd be interested in hearing from Deryle about this, is, you know, while sales have cooled off, the interest and the use at campgrounds is incredibly high. You know, Jeremy said that RVIA's got a report coming out that it's going to be big Labor Day. KOA put their campground forecast up. The Go RVing web traffic is very, very high. There's a lot of interest. It's just because of whatever reason, people are having a harder time pulling the trigger maybe on buying that new unit. Deryle, are you seeing increased traffic at your site?
We're seeing increased traffic in people planning to sell after the Labor Day weekend. They are saying, you know, we're going to, now the last weekend, the kids go to school, whatever, or the 8th of September, and one more time, and they are researching us to find out what we do and how we do it. And I expect a surge of business by the middle of that's what I'm seeing. Also, in reference to your statistics, what I noticed is the younger people, it's younger and younger people that are getting involved in the RV. And then there's the older and older and older ones that are maintaining their health. And it's real simple for me to understand. The young ones will text and email all day long. The older ones, I got to answer that phone or they ain't doing business. So all of the campground owners out there, if you want a business of a person over 55, you were 50, you better be answering the phone. If you want business from a person under 40, you better be fingers fast on text messaging. Again, you've taken care of customers right there.
Without giving numbers, Deryle, percentage-wise, what do you figure your business is going to go up after September?
You know, I actually don't think it is. I see the prices, the wholesale prices going down. I see an increase in the, I hate to bring it up again, but it's negative equity. And there's what I have difficulty getting inventory when the price on the inventory is consistently going down. When it was strong and going up, oh my goodness gracious, it was different. This ebbs and flows, and right now, yeah, I'm going to be busier, but I'm not going to be busier by getting a lot of listings. I'm going to be busy by a lot of people saying, oh no, now what do I do? So, you know, I know what the hope is. I know what the wish is. I know what the want is. That is to get hundreds or thousands of listings, but I don't see them coming around the corner because of price.
Deryle, what about your buyer traffic? I mean, you have sellers obviously that are going to the site. What about those people looking to buy? Is that traffic up, down, or flat?
It's up, but it's up with the people that have the money that are saying, you know, I think interest rates going up. I got cash. Gee whiz, I think prices are going to be down a little bit before Christmas. I think I'll wait. I'll wait. I really want it. I made a decision. I'm going to buy that, but I'm going to wait 90 days. So they're looking for bargains, and they're cash buyers. Financing is getting less and less and less. Inspections are getting less and less and less. Nobody's interested in insurance, and nobody's interested in extended warranties.
Well, and I think we're seeing this to a certain extent too. mirrored in the transaction and sale of campgrounds in general. You know, people were buying these up at an extremely high clip over the pandemic and the years before that. They're still very interested in purchasing campgrounds, but there's that waiting period now where the asking price of the campground is still what somebody expected to get last year. And with interest rates and different cap rates and all those kinds of things, the math doesn't make sense. So they're kind of in that holding pattern too, looking for that deal. So
yeah, I think you find that in a bunch of different industries right now. There's the prices haven't come back down to the customer expectations of where they're at right now.
And it's interesting from a, go ahead, sorry, please.
I'm in the perfect position to help dealers on the deals that they're $10,000 to $20,000 apart, because I could get that seller that want to be traded in RV likely more cash net, and that helps the dealer because that buyer can come back with no trade and cash situation. And gee whiz, if I happen to say, gee, you know, because that you came from that dealer network, I got a $5,000 chit here for you. Go back to that dealer and buy that unit you wanted for cash. I can make that difference work. You know, there's lots of deals. I know there's lots of deals on the dealer side where they're $10,000 or $20,000, and the buyer ain't going up, and the dealer ain't going down because they can't. Come to RV Wheelator. I can guarantee that trade in a buyer, guaranteed. And the other byline that I use is we can guarantee them up to 50% more cash than the dealer. And we've got hundreds of examples of that. And I'm not putting down the dealers, guys. I'm just bragging about my business model. That's all I'm doing is bragging about my business model. So
MC Fireside Chats sponsored by Deryle and RV Wheelator, but also we should remember that it is actually for real sponsored by AccessParks. And I should mention them because we're really grateful that they're sponsoring the 4th week episode of the RV Industry Show. If you're in the market for Wi-Fi at a campground, AccessParks is one of the premier, or if not the premier provider of Wi-Fi. Work for national parks, KOAs, all kinds of really cool stuff. So definitely check them out. That was my little segue. I had to force that in there. So thanks for reminding me, Deryle. I appreciate that. But
you're welcome. This little entrepreneur has to get in his work whenever he can.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, sir. Nothing wrong with that. You know, again, I'm glad that companies like yours exist because there's a function, as we've discussed long over the show, for both sides of those things, and everybody helps everybody. The whole ecosystem works together. So. What else we got to talk about, Jeremy? Any other cool data that we should be paying attention to that maybe got under the radar or unnoticed?
Oh man, I feel like we got something, you know, constantly. We just did a path to purchase research study. I guess, what was it, Phil? Maybe it was earlier this year. They all blend together for me. But it looked at just, you know, how first-time buyers purchase and then how repeat buyers purchase. You know, and the differences between the two, and maybe where some folks like drop off and why. And it was all designed to, you know, to really help the industry deliver the right messages at the right time to those buyers. But what we found is, you know, attachment to brand is critical for taking somebody from a first time to a repeat. You know, and so that's something we're keying on as an industry, and you're seeing a lot from the manufacturers. You're seeing more brand development, you know, from the RV industry in that space. So, yeah, that's certainly one thing that we've delivered recently.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different segments of buyers, and the study talking about buyers and where they're at right now. You know, when I first got in the business, and this before Jeremy and maybe even Shane, but we were very, very pedantic about some of our terminology in the business. When we were promoting it, we didn't like them being called campers. We didn't like them being called pop-ups and, you know, van campers or whatever. You know, you had to be called Type B motorhomes. You know, well, that's not the terminology that people are using when they're searching online. And so, you know, I think the study was one of the things that came out to me was that the industry has to meet these folks where they are. And if they're looking for van campers, call them van campers. If they're, they may look for type B motorhomes if they're really into it. But, that's the kind of thing I think that the study was trying to get across to the industry as well, is to meet the consumer where they are. And, in the case of B van people, the van campers or the van life folks, some of them don't even consider themselves RVers at all. They're doing something different. Well, that's okay. You can call it what you want, but just, buy a motorhome, So I thought that was a pretty big takeaway from the study.
Yeah, the other thing I'll mention, Brian, too, that we've seen recently, and it's probably no surprise to this group here, is the folks that are looking to work from the road, and the opportunities that RVing really presents to that segment. There's been a massive shift in how many people expect to be able to do that. And we showed in our latest survey of leisure travelers that's coming out that 19% of the respondents have worked from an RV in the last 24 months, and that almost 30% are considering doing it in the next year. That's another trend that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. More RVs are being developed that have office space, or the capabilities. There's a lot more that's going into being able to boondock or get out into nature and still be able to stay connected, so that you can still work from the road or send off that email or what have you. So that's definitely a trend that the industry is addressing, and something that really brings a potential new customer to us.
Right. I mean, look at the implications for the campgrounds. If they have weak or spotty Wi-Fi service, those people are going to pack up and go somewhere that does.
Yep. So which is why they need AccessParks, our sponsor. Go ahead, Phil.
That's exactly right. And that's why those companies are so critical. I mean, that's amazing when you think about it, that, 2 out of 10 campers who are might be at a resort are actually working from their RV. I mean, that's something that is, amazing when it comes right down to it. And gets the younger people are out there doing it too. So
do we have any data on what, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, right? Do we have any data on what working from your RV means? Does that mean checking your email, sitting at a desk with a laptop for a couple hours?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be any in the above. I mean, we kind of ask that question. So, the way we ask it is typically, do you sit down and work? Not are you enjoying time with family and you're on your phone and you check an email. I think folks look at it more as actually spending some significant amount of time working, while they're in their RV.
On the serious side, I get asked 35% of the time if it's able to have it, if it's equipped so often to be managed in. They're a desk, they're a great table where I can work. And I asked them, like, you work from your RV? Yep. And it's amazing, all the way from CEOs, man, all the way down to key punch operator. It's amazing. When they say, I run a travel company, I've got X number of tens of thousands of dollars worth of commissions I earn every year on selling trips, RV vacation trips. It was surprising to me. I work out of my RV because I'm in the RV business. I happen to have a 53 footer. It's how big? 53 feet. 53. So that all of you want to come and talk to me, because you've got to know, how big is that? Is that legal? Oh my goodness, do you need a CDL? All of those questions, I got them branded by the time they're done visiting with me about RV Wheelator. So all of us, a lot of us work in it, some out of necessity and others out of convenience because we can, others just because we can and want to.
Shane, before we leave, what's new in Canada? You've been quiet.
Well, we just did our shipment stats the other day, and like Phil said, things aren't that rosy. But I will like to say, RVIA does a tremendous job doing the stats, and we use as a guidance a lot of what they put out. we're proud of what we can do up here, and we're just in the midst of the final throes of getting our economic study out. We usually do it every three or so years. We haven't done one before COVID, so it should be right in the next 30 days or so. And I think we're all interested to see how many new RVs are out in the road up here. Not doing it every year, so this will be, a pretty good update. And we're optimistic that the numbers will show pretty good. We use this economic study when we do our advocacy work up here, and it's important for us. Not as extensive about the buyer, but it does provide a good economic footprint for us.
So when we all get back here for the RV industry show in 4 weeks, you're going to have that data for us. Promise, right?
Well, we're hopeful anyway. We're trying to get some stats from the campgrounds, but they're right in the middle of the season and they've been slow coming. So we're fingers crossed, Brian.
All right. Well, if not, we can just randomly speculate and make up something.
Yeah, just 90% of Canadians own RVs.
I did hear that. I heard that, Shane. I think that's true. Okay. Well, anything else? Any final closing thoughts? Seriously, Jeremy, if you want to consider it, we'd love to have you or somebody from RVIA. I feel like that's a very important piece that we're missing here. We have RVDA of America, RVDA of Canada, CRVA. We have the RV Women's Alliance on here. We should get Kurt from the RVTI too. But
yeah, I'm sure he'd love it. I enjoyed being here with you all, and anytime I'm down for it.
All right. Well, if it's not windy, there's literally 50-mile-an-hour winds. Do you guys see this behind me?
We do.
And then literally 5 minutes when the show ends, it'll be clear for the rest of the afternoon. Anyway, but yeah, for sure, I'll have my team reach out to you, Jeremy, if it's something you're interested in, because the commentary is super valuable. Those studies I'd love to dive into more and all that kind of stuff. So any final thoughts before we go, so I can just not talk while the wind's blowing in my mic?
Thanks, all of you. Appreciate it.
Nice seeing you, Daryl.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Daryl. Best of luck in your business.
Please don't take me as indifferent. I just have a different niche than what you guys have. Same product.
All right.
Different.
Yes.
Well, let's see if we can do this. All right, can we do this? So, all right, thank you guys. I appreciate it for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats, RV industry focused episode. I really appreciate you being here again, Phil, Shane, Jeremy from RVIA, giving us some clarity on that. Love to involve you more, of course, Deryle with RV Wheelator. Did I do that?
No.
Wheelator.
Wheelator.
Really appreciate you being a producer, and we'd love for you to stay on top of it and keep us in the loop on your business as well. So thank you. And then Shane, of course. Did I say Shane? I feel like
you did. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yep. All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Have a great day. Bye.
For joining us for this episode of MC Fireside Chats with your host, Brian Searl. Have a suggestion for a show idea? Want your campground or company in a future episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Get your daily dose of news from moderncampground.com. And be sure to join us next week for more insights into the fascinating world of outdoor hospitality.